time.
All right, man. The magical, the famous episode 100, This Life in Tech. I am Jason.
And I'm Dan.
And I'm Ken.
So dedicated. I am in my childhood bedroom in Northeast Ohio, tethering through my beautiful Google Pixel 3 XL.
Nice.
Thank God Sprint works well here.
I'm surprised Sprint works at all.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, in some places it's glorious. And here's one of them, thankfully.
Is that one of your wrestling trophies in the background?
It is, man.
Nice.
So do you like scan the background to see if there's like any dildos or things you can use to compromise? Yeah, because you're always like peeking in the background.
I'm just perceptive.
Well, I guess that's one way.
I see Dan's using a Mac keyboard on with a Dell monitor in the background and looks like a scanner or a laptop on the left. So
is that always why you sit in front of a blank wall with nothing around you, so none of us can observe where you're at or what you're up to?
I'm actually in my office. So here's my stuff. So. Not much to look at, man. Minimalist.
Well, I can't take the first time you've heard that.
I can't take responsibility for this. I haven't lived here in I don't know how long, man. A long time. This is actually my dad's office now.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. So what have you guys been up to? We're New Year's Eve, getting ready for 2019.
Well, starting it off.
Nice.
Little Widow Jane. So I was just got back from DC, see the kids out there, and went out Saturday night and had a bourbon, the 10-year Pappy. It was amazing. Now I'm trying to see if I can find any, and of course it's already the hardest bourbon to find, let alone the 10-year, which is even more difficult to find, even though it's the cheaper of them. So the place we were at, we're like, hey, you're not going to find this, we're on special for the holidays, $20 a drink, where normally it's like 60, and that's just for the 10-year. You want to go to the 15 and the 20, forget it. The places are charging you like $300 for a drink of that. Wow. Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I'm sitting there drinking, and I'm like, I don't think there's any rye in this at all. There's not. That was part of it. So they go high corn concentration, wheat, but then they use malted barley. So as I started looking up the mash bill, which is why, and I mean, it's why it's so smooth. It was amazing. I can only imagine what the 15 or the 20-year would be. But so now I'm like scrounging around, see if I can find any 10-year so I can have some tonight, because it was great.
I'll tell you what, man, and I'm sure you're experiencing this now too in Indiana. Ken, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'll tell you one of the things I'm super impressed with in the Midwest, and not so much, but a little bit the Mid-Atlantic, but especially the Southeast where I'm at in North Carolina, there is fantastic beer. If you're into beer, all kinds, all varieties, not just all IPA hipster beers, but man, the booze is cheap. Like I went to the grocery store the other night here to get some stuff. I was hanging out with my brother, having some conversations, and I felt like having a nice single malt. And you know me, man, if I can find it, I'll get a 10-year Lafroig, $45. It's cheap.
But it's worth it.
There's a lot of breweries around here. That Pappy stuff you were talking about, is that stuff made in Kentucky?
Yeah.
Is that the one that's so rare that some of those guys had stolen it or something?
Yep.
Last year? I thought that name sounded familiar.
Pappy
that was big. Yes, that was that was big in the news here.
Yeah. So they only produce a certain amount of bottles a year, and then they distribute it out to their places because they don't sell direct, and people in certain, and it's only essentially distributed around the holiday season. So from October to like December, that's it. And certain places hold a lottery for your chance to even buy a bottle because they get so few of them. and it comes down to like Pappy says, hey, we suggest the retail price of this being $75. Yeah, because as it gets further and further to the last one, some of those bottles wind up going for like $2,000.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
I will absolutely buy the 15 or the 20 year when I graduate from Michigan, and that's going to be my thing to myself.
Your gift.
My gift to myself. I'm going to have that, and I will drink only on the anniversary of my graduation from a top 5 now program in the country.
How did your exams go?
I've got all grades in except for economics. So economics I took not last weekend, but the weekend before, because last week would have been right. Oh no, it would have been last weekend because it was Christmas weekend, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I took the economics one then. But so far, 4 classes down, 4 passes. I'm good to go.
Perfect.
Now I'm just waiting on this economics one. I don't find there to be any reason why I won't get a pass. It's a lot of fun.
And so then roughly, do you have like one more calendar year, or how much longer do you have to go?
How much longer? I have, let's see, 488 more days.
A little over a year then.
A year. Yeah.
Yeah, 488 days. So May 2020. So I just finished the first semester. One semester down. I don't know however many to go. 488 more days is all I care about.
Well, you know what? I mean, since it's getting to be 2019, I sat down last night and this morning and started setting out my goals for the next year.
Yeah.
And then saying, okay, like you and I talked about this before. I don't know, Ken, if you know this. I want to do these gravel long distance ultra marathon races. And so I picked 3 that are in the state of North Carolina, so they're easier to get to. And I already registered for them, so now I'm in. Right, I already spent the money to register for the race. All I got to do is put the bike on the car and drive to the race the day of or the night before, depending on how far it is, and race. And I set the bar at the first race is the hardest. It's 100 miles over 10,000 feet of climbing, which is pretty extreme.
Man.
The second race is longer. It's 200 miles, but it's
and this is all bike, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's gravel, so it's a mix of crushed gravel and pavement. The second one's longer. It's 200 miles, but it's half the climbing. So it seems like maybe it's harder because it's twice as far. But once you're going 100 miles, after that, it's just a couple more stops. You know what I mean? It ain't necessarily that much harder endurance wise. It's the climbing that'll at least kill. I suck at climbing. I'm built like a sprinter, and I'm good at sprinting, not climbing. You know what I mean? So anyway, long story short,
you're built like a sprinter, you mean like a dwarf sprinter? Because that's the only thing I can have you really built like.
On a bike, yeah. Not like a 100-yard dash, man. If you want me to run fast on a 100-yard dash, you better put a bottle of Lafroig at the end of that.
Yeah, and a bear casing you.
Bear casing.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. And I'll get there quick enough to at least take a swig.
Yeah,
man, this is on a bike. So anyway, what I was saying was, so you set these races, register for them, your money's in, right? So now you can hold yourself accountable. And then I've just been breaking down the details. What do I need to do? Well, I need to get new wheels because I crashed last week and ruined my wheels. So forth and so on, you know what I mean? School, the same thing. I think it's a beautiful goal, man. Anything you can do to 2019 for me, I'll say this. I'll summarize it this way instead of droning on about it. I think is the year of maximum potential. You know what I mean?
For you?
For everybody.
For
everybody, certainly for me, but as much as I can, the people around me too.
Yeah, I've only gotten 3 goals so far set for myself. I like to set 5, and I've only done 3 so far. My 3 goals are: I'm already doing one IDPA event in March. That's the International Defensive Pistol.
Oh, okay.
So I'd like to, by the end of the year, finish in the top 10 in one event. So that's a goal. I went a little bit higher than I normally do in this case, but I think with school, it shouldn't be too much problem. But I want to read 50 books and not like sci-fi books, but like 50, something that's going to expand my overall knowledge base. And then the other one I have is I'm going to actually make bourbon.
Really?
Yep.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, I won't be able to touch it for at least 2 years, but I know what I want my mash bill to be. Now I just got to figure out the logistics. So I want to make a barrel of bourbon this year. That's 50 gallons.
You should come down to the Jack Daniel's distillery and pick up one of their big. You can buy like all kinds of that wood from them. They do all that stuff. They sell it after they're done with the barrels and stuff.
Well, see, that's the kicker. For bourbon, it has to be a brand new, never used charred barrel. Otherwise, it's just shitty Tennessee whiskey.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you what's particularly powerful about that goal, as I observe it. You know me. I'll drink bourbon, but I like single malt Scotch personally. But what I like about that as a goal is not only there's probably a good bit you're gonna have to learn to do it along the way, right? So it's a good experience, right? But the nice thing is it's such a delayed gratification. You have to put all that labor into it, and you're not even gonna know if it's good, really.
For 2 years.
2, 3, yeah.
2 years minimum.
But you can't
classified as bourbon has to be in the
like taste it.
Well,
like sample it or anything to kind of know you're on the right path.
I would tell you that then it would probably taste like proper 12.
Oh, is that Connors?
It is garbage. Like, it is literal. I mean, it'll probably get better. The bottle won't. If he took that and it's still in their casks where he originally did it in, it will get better. It tastes like a very, very young whiskey, which means it has not had time to get all the flavorings out of the casks that they use. And I don't know enough about Irish whiskey to give you all the different nuances of it. But I've had a 2-year bourbon, and it's not much better than what Connors is with proper 12. So because it's not enough time. The most so like this one right here, I don't know if it has it in here in terms of how old it was, but so Widow Jane is 10 years in the barrel. You're not going to find most that are less than 5, just as because it has to be a minimum of 2. You need to get the characteristics out of the wood. And the interesting thing, which I've given Connor a bunch of crap on, because he added food coloring.
Oh, that's a big no-no.
Did he really?
Actually, it's not, evidently. So a lot of them do it so that way you have a consistent color amongst all batches. So you're allowed a certain amount.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. When you have like a 10-year-old cask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and at that point, I'd say it's probably a good idea, exactly for what you said, consistency, evenness, so forth and so on. But you have a legitimate product.
Yeah. Not after because he probably, I don't know what he did. It was kind of funny. I mean, I that stuff that because I read the reviews on it. I wanted to see what it was going to be like. And but here's the real catch on it. I read the reviews after I tasted it because I didn't want to, I didn't want to influence myself. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's the process, and I have in this case, I try to make them as diverse as I possibly can. Well, actually, I do know what my 4th goal is. I'm going to actually publish a paper this year. You and I talked about that earlier. So
fuck yeah,
yeah. I have something which I don't want to spill too much of the beans on yet until after I write, but I think it will cause a lot of discussion in the cybersecurity and technology world.
Sweet. What do you got going on?
It's about passwords, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody's about passwords, right? I don't know. I read I think 65 books this year, so I think I'm going to maybe try to go a little bit harder next year. But I'm going to mix it up, do a little opposite of Dan. I want to go a little sci-fi this year. I had a lot of those books. Let's see.
Yeah,
I guess I'll publish a paper.
But I just don't count them into my book list because that's like a dessert.
Oh, okay. Sure. And that's, yeah, no, I get that. I got a couple of golf goals, but other than that, I haven't really put it down on paper. You guys sound like you've been thinking about it longer than I have, but I definitely need to publish a paper before the end of next semester, which shouldn't be too hard.
Just submit it to Sissy. Seems like anyone that submits there gets in.
Well, I don't know, man. I don't submit there. I don't go there anymore. I don't want to be part of it.
You found out that it's a.
Hey, man, I'll take my best paper award and call it a day.
Oh yeah, sure.
And you know what? If I have to win at the Special Olympics without being handicapped, I'll take it. You got to start somewhere. Hey, look, if I never do better, I can't fall far.
True.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, but this is something that I put it out there. I think we put our goals out there last year too, because then otherwise, if you don't really make it out there and make it somewhat public, they're not going to get done.
Yeah, I think the accountability is a big thing. Like I've done the book thing before because I read a lot naturally. One thing I'm going to do different this year is I haven't decided yet. You guys tell me what you think about this. I don't know if I'm going to do it on a daily basis or a weekly basis. I'm going to tweet out my % progress on each book. I think I'm going to do it daily because it really should be a daily act. Well, and it is. I almost always read, let's say 6 out of 7 days a week. I always read at night. That's what I do after I want to relax. And especially now, here's one of the benefits, I think, going into 2019. There's no good video games. They all absolutely are trash. So there's nothing to play. So I'm no longer interested in playing, which means I have even more time to be productive with things, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
Perfect, man. The stars aligned. You know what I mean? And so I've been thinking, I've published a list before. I've talked about books I've read, but I've never done something that is, if you were a follower on Twitter, let's say, how can you be more involved in it? Right? And that's kind of like an overarching thing I've been thinking about for this year. Like one thing I'm thinking about is I'm done with a book that I wrote. And I'm not quite sure yet if I'm going to publish it as a book, or I've been thinking about experimenting with doing it as a series of videos and just doing like, in 10, 15, maybe 30-minute chunks, videos on my personal YouTube channel. Whether I choose to monetize it or not, it's a different thing. There's no reason not to. And just seeing what happens and just putting things out there.
Have you ever thought about doing it like Kindle Singles? You ever heard about that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It wouldn't be a bad idea too. You monetize it that way. Kindle Singles. It's
Kindle. Like
Kindle.
Kindle. Oh, got it.
Yeah, Amazon Kindle. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. That's kind of a hot thing right now. You can buy small chapters of stuff, and then it's really inexpensive for people to buy, and just kind of like that bourbon, get a taste of it and see whether you like it or not.
Well, and I'll tell you, I did an experiment in 2018 that, as far as I can tell, was successful. I don't have all the data because some of it's out of my control and I just can't get it from the people that have it. But instead of writing a book and then releasing it, I wrote more or less the majority of parts of 2 books in 500 to 750 word essays that I released each week through the school. And those got a lot of traction, man. And well, come on, man. It only takes a half hour to an hour to write 500 words. So you're not talking about a big labor investment on your part each week, but it kind of goes back to that chapter book approach. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where big novels were released as chapters, as individual serialized novels, or like Kindle Singles, same idea.
Yeah.
And you can do it, man. And, this is kind of, I have another friend that he's done with his part of the book and I'm just starting my part. And we had this discussion about, do we go through a mainstream publisher? Or do we self-publish? And there's pros and cons of each. The older I get, I'm more of the idea of, look, if I'm only going to sell 1 copy of a book, if I self-publish it, even if I only make $8, that's 100% my $8 minus the tax, right? Whereas if I go through a mainstream publisher, at best, I'm only going to get 3 to 5%. And I don't have any control. So I think I'd rather have control and potentially make less money because I don't have the marketing and distribution power. And because that's another problem that can be solved in the future. How do you market something? Well, that's a defined problem.
True.
If I wanted to solve it that bad, I can just hire somebody.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I was thinking about that.
I like the Twitter idea though, because I started a book the other day. I posted that I was reading it online, but making a progress on it kind of forces me to get off my butt and say, let's finish this book and move to the next one.
I think the other thing that's nice too, man, is, and I started thinking about this because I've seen other people do it. I saw you talking about your reading list and all that stuff. And I was thinking to myself, okay, but part of it is if somebody, like I was saying, if somebody follows and they want to be part of it, you know, how can you give them something to be part of? And then the other part too, of course, data nerdy. You know, are there certain days that I read better on? Are there certain days where I spend more time reading, but I don't actually accomplish as much because maybe I'm distracted by something? You know what I mean? And how do you track that? Well, you know, if you just start with reporting a % read of the total, which if you're reading Kindle's built into it, you know what I mean? It always shows you. If you're reading hard copy, you just have to do the math real quick. It's not a big deal. And you have something you can track and quantify.
Yeah, and then you could put out one of those nice little, here's what I did this year, data visualization, you know, creativity things like, hey, instead of reading 65 books, you read 65 books, but it was like 30,000 pages or, you know, something crazy like that. Yeah, that'd be kind of neat to do at the end of the year.
Well, and like Dan has talked about before, if you're looking to optimize your performance, you know, where did I get distracted? Where did I fall down? When I travel for business or pleasure, am I less productive, more productive, the same? And how do you tweak things?
I always got the impression you were ultra productive just because you do bullet journaling. I don't know Dan as well because he was on my committee at the last minute. So do you bullet journal?
No.
You do a to-do list?
Yep.
Same here.
Yeah, I make lists of things because I hate lists. If there's something on my list, I have to get it checked off. Got to cross it off. Like that is just how
the way you are.
Yep. But I often use like voice memo because I'll be thinking about something when I'm in a car or something like that, and I'm like, Google, take a note. Bam, here's my thought, and I can come back to them later. Sure. And then I can expand on them. And this is some things that this is the interesting part that I continue to find fascinating about the psychology of those people in cybersecurity and those people who are not in technology at all. They tend to be overly paranoid about technology. Everything is listening to you and everything is being used against you. And yet they still have a Starbucks card that they go in, like that's not being tracked, or they use Facebook, or they have to have a car and it's got all this technology in it. I'm like, you think there's a box in there recording constantly as well, and depending on the type of manufacturer, it's sending data back to the manufacturer. So it's only when they see that there's an Alexa or a Google Home or any of the other smart hubs that are out there. There's so many things that are being tracked, and that's what you're going to pay attention to.
Sure.
Right.
So they choose not to use the technology because they have failed to understand the benefit, because there's risk in everything.
Sure.
So how do you start to minimize the impact of any of those malicious events occurring? And I've accepted the risks associated with some of these things because of the benefit that I get. My benefit to me and expanding my own person as far outweighs the fact that I might get breached. Because guess what? I can't tell you how many times my information has been compromised because of student loans, banks, Target,
OPM.
You name it. OPM. So I can only control myself. I can't control what these other companies are going to do. Now, I did make a conscious decision I don't even know how many years ago it is. Maybe 6 years ago when I went off of Facebook. Because I just did not, I knew what they were doing. And so I didn't want to be a part of that. Too much information. Because it's not just mine. Because I could lock mine down. But that doesn't mean the people I'm associated with are locking it down. And therefore I'm compromised because of them. And so I didn't want to go down there anymore. But, you know, John Callis, he's got a Facebook account.
Sure. Is 2019 going to be the return of Dan Ford in some form on Twitter?
I am already back on Twitter.
Thanks for telling us.
I haven't really done anything with it yet.
I know. That's why I'm trying to coax it out of you, you prick.
Yeah. So I've got to get everything lined up the way in which I want it to be. You know, I'm trying to, in many ways, associate myself more with the advancement of technology and leadership rather than the person that grew up in technology to the hacking field to just cybersecurity. Not that part was bad, but I'm in a different chapter in my life now, and that chapter's gone. It's done with. It's a sunk cost. So I closed down the original Twitter. For 30 days, so everything got deleted from Twitter side, and then re-enabled it so that way no one else could take it, and then made it private, locked it, and done. So that name can't be used anymore.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, 2019. I've already started it. You know, I just got to get the right keywords that I want in there, because I'm going to start blogging again, but more things on what I believe are going to help. I had a conversation with one of the board members at the bank the other day. It was a very, very good conversation, and we were talking about doing my MBA, and he said, "I think that's a really smart thing for you to do, because how many people are at the bank?" And I'm like, I don't know, like 1,200 or so, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. He's like, "And how many do you have?" I'm like, 84. He goes, "So you are way in the minority. You're less than 10%. Are you going to try to get that 90% of the people to speak your language, or are you going to figure out how to speak theirs? Because you're the minority. That's like you going to live in Germany. You better go learn to speak German." So I want to help those in technology learn to speak business, because that's the only way technology is going to continue to advance. They need to speak the language of business, because business is not going to speak the language of technology.
No, and you know, man, you and I have talked about this before. I've never thought about it this way. But I think that's an astute observation as a strong leader, looking at, to put it in John Callis's terms, where the puck's going to be, not where it's at right now.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how difficult it necessarily is to be a competent manager. I don't think it's very hard to be a competent manager and just make sure, let's say, stuff gets implemented roughly on time, roughly. But man, that's not what the world needs. There's plenty of that. The world still needs and has a distinct lack of acute leadership that's able to serve as a conduit or a liaison or a bridge. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's also something that's never going to go away. I mean, that's always going to be necessary, because there ain't very many people at all that can be in all those places. You know what I mean? As in terms of a skill set.
It's true.
Especially people that have, you know, somewhat of an engineering analyst, down in the weeds administrator background.
It's going to be very difficult for people in technology to do that, because they're going to go, "Well, I just don't understand why they don't understand." Well, of course not. It's a different language.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
As leaders, we have to evolve. We have to evolve as people. And that's one of the things that I believe that I'm going to do with the role of CIO is I'm going to get out there. I'm going to evolve that. There's, I believe that the majority of CIOs came from a field of application development. And as such, they are close. The reason why they became CIOs is because that's what the business users saw. But they weren't the ones that were all knowing. They weren't the ones that knew how all the components work together. And I don't believe that the position of the CIO has evolved to align technology and business. There are always the exceptions to that that come from that older school of thought, and I would say those that are above 55. But I have not met very many. The ones that I have met are all about the application. Everything else to them doesn't seem to matter. At least, I mean, what they portray. So yeah, I want to get out there and evolve it.
Perfect. What do you got, Ken?
Hi, yeah, I'm just listening. I'm thinking. One thing I did mention, I wanted to, one of my goals this year was to build my website. I've never had my own website. So I talked to you about that about a month ago. So, I had a name picked out. Do what?
WordPress.
Yeah.
WordPress makes it easy.
And, but the domain name I wanted, Kenmare, is spoken for, which is kind of a bummer. It's a balding real estate guy in Phoenix, Arizona. So yeah, I'll find something else, but I'm definitely going to build a site. That's something I want to do. And I want to blog weekly, kind of like Dan. Do what?
Like, if you were giving the elevator pitch on, Dr. Ken, what's the brand? Who are you? What are you?
No, that's a good point. I think that's why I need to get stuff out there.
Well, to be fair, I think you have a nice Twitter handle, the Dr. Ken.
That name's so stolen too. So, yeah, I wish I had that one. But,
Oh, perfect. Now you can reinvent yourself.
I'll reinvent myself, kind of like Dan's doing, and.
Well, I'll send you some of the stuff that they asked me to do at Michigan for building a brand. So I'll send you that stuff. It'll help you out.
Hey, why don't you send it to me on Twitter when you officially get on there? So.
Sure. I mean, the first thing I tweet to you. Here you go, Ken. Here's how you can help build your brand. And then
per the University of Michigan.
That's funny.
Hey, I want to start getting into some predictions.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so Ken, you're a little bit new to this game.
Okay.
At least the way Jason and I do it. There's also predictions that call out all of the snake oil salesmen and the so-called experts and what they're going to predict before they predict it.
Okay.
So I'm going to start. I'll start with one of those. At least 5 so-called cybersecurity experts will predict this is the year of the endpoint. This will be the year that passwords are gone and we move to 2-factor authentication, and that major companies will be breached by a nation state again. All of them. That will be in their predictions. All of those things.
How long would we be calling for the end of passwords?
Well, you have to go look at Eric Cole, because Eric Cole's been doing it for like the last 15 years. It's been in there every
I mean, at this point, it's like saying we're going to have hydrogen cars. First of all, guess what? We already have them. I mean, the technology exists. Second of all, the reason they'll never get deployed, at least in the U.S., is because nobody's building the infrastructure to fuel them.
Right.
So what's funny about this is that I think Jason and I predicted last year, before all this stuff, that Facebook would get breached.
Yep,
and they did.
That's right. All right, here's my prediction. My first prediction, based on what other people are going to predict, and they're galactically wrong, is that this will be the year for machine learning and cyber analytics, because it's autonomous and intelligent, and that's where they're galactically wrong. Everybody is ignoring the problem of how do you trust what's coming out of that black boxed algorithm.
Absolutely. Because there's been some weird stories coming out about those black boxes and the stuff they have. They don't even know why it came out of those black boxes.
Well, and so this is the duplicitous nature of this, is nobody should be surprised that you get anomalous artifacts out of it because of the way they're built. The confusion becomes because the industry believes that what they're creating is machine intelligence, and it's not. So I'll make a personal prediction that has nothing to do with anybody else, but this is my, perhaps even maybe my only prediction for 2019. 2019 will see a true machine intelligence purported to pass the Turing test. Now, this is key, which will lead to the final proof that the Turing test is absolute horseshit. I mean, I don't mean to bag. I don't want to bag on Alan Turing. He's a brilliant individual. He had a great idea, but the way it's being applied and the way our technology is bandied about as if it were intelligent is nothing more than snake oil, smoke and mirrors. And this is going to expose it.
Awesome. All right, so Jason's 1-1. What do you got there, Ken?
You know, I'll kind of go along with you. Everything that's been in the news lately has been AI. So everybody's going to continue to preach AI as the future of everything. It's going to solve all of mankind's problems. It's going to solve big problems, not just this coming year, but in the next several years. But we've been actually saying this for, we use AI every single day in every products. Most of our electronics have some form of AI in them. But I think they're thinking it's going to be like solve these huge world problems, poverty, you know, big oil, all this baloney. But I was going to take the password one, is this was the year they were going to keep saying the passwords were going to go away, which is total crap, and we know it.
Well, of course it is. God, I can't help myself. Jesus Christ, this is the one that maybe even more now than immune systems. This one gets me worked up now. Oh no, that's actually not true. Immune systems is still number one. This is a close number two. What are you going to do? Magically invent something that replaces passwords and convince every single enterprise and every single vendor that's ever existed in the last 2 decades to suddenly magically roll out these patches and change their system over to this new form of authentication that does what differently? What? Well, because you still have fucking computers in between.
Right. But so there is something that's interesting. So Microsoft, Satya came out and said, and that is implemented in Windows 10. You can go passwordless with Windows 10. The capability exists and still be secure. I mean, you can hook it up with your phone. They've got the app. So you can do it. The interesting part is right now, from an enterprise perspective, is what I've got, is that what happens when you need to go to administrator?
Right.
That's where you need an alternative solution, because then you can't use the Windows Hello pieces that are out there.
Right.
It won't let you roll out in a standard image, like an admin type picture. Like say, like you were managing all. I mean, I know this is crazy, but like putting your picture on there, if you had to manage like 100 machines, for example, it wouldn't let you do that.
No, so this is for direct user authentication. So,
okay.
So now, Dan Ford, as the user, I can use anything that's compatible with Windows Hello to go passwordless. But if I need to essentially sudo go to administrator, now I have to have something else. So now I might need phone factor or RSA or something else.
Okay.
Or a password, right? So I can remove the password for my end users, but I can't remove it for everything. But I think it's a good step.
It's a good step, but it raises another issue. If you're going to use some type of, let's say, image, and it's an image at least in part of me, and you terminate me, what right do you have to continue using my likeness?
True.
I don't believe that that necessarily means they don't have the right.
Right, but that has to be negotiated, right? So is that another prediction? Are we going to start to see the exercising of intellectual property ownership even at a low level of employment?
So, we're already seeing that. Or no, I'm sorry, that was non-compete. I'm thinking of non-compete. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting part. All I got to do is wait for you to walk outside the building, and you're in public. You have no expectation of privacy. I can take your picture and do whatever I want.
Right.
I mean, it's but no, I don't think there hasn't been anything litigated to the point to where who knows how the Supreme Court might do it. Right. I don't know.
I don't know either. But I think we can agree, though, that at some point that's going to have to be negotiated. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows, man? I agree that it's a great step. It certainly is, man. And it alleviates a lot of cognitive burden. So
but
as technology,
just so you know, Windows Hello is not just your image.
Right. Okay. I understand. I'm saying if it is.
Right. So this is why for me, while I use, and you have to have an RF camera in order for Windows Hello to use your image, but I use a fingerprint device.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one so I have one built into the one laptop I use, but I also have a third-party fingerprint as well. So for the other systems, I use that and it stores a fingerprint. I plug it in via USB, bam, fingerprint's red.
Yep.
So anyway, all right, Ken, you have a real prediction for us? I mean, meaning your own kind of prediction, not like one of the ones that we're making fun of the people who just say the same thing over and over again. Did we lose them?
I think this is the year that we are going to do something to China, government-wise. I think we're going to hack them to pay them back for the intellectual property they're stealing, and I think it's going to be. I think that time is coming, and the only reason I think that is because of who's in office right now.
Interesting. You think that breach will occur, and then they're going to be able to attribute that to the United States?
Absolutely. We're hearing a lot of companies talking and saying we're getting sick and tired of China stealing our stuff. And I think it's going to get to a point where the lobbying is going to get really big with their local Congress people. It's going to be sent up to chain of command, and NSA is going to say, "Sure, we'll take care of it." And I think something's going to happen. I think it's just this year. I just think we're like right at that top of that pinnacle.
I like that. I think it because we have not yet been attributed to really anything.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, some of our.
Stuxnet.
Well, some of our tech companies are large enough, and I would guess have enough talent to operate on their own. They don't even need the NSA to do that, but they're still it's still a U.S. company.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I also think we might see a private company get back at another company in China, and that gets attributed. That happened a few years ago with Lyft and Uber. The Uber. Was it the CISO or the CIO was hacking from his office and into Lyft's corporate office? I mean, it was insane. But yeah. I honestly believe we're going to see some trouble this year. I think companies are tired of China stealing.
And let me carry off that real quick if I can, Dan. Because one of the things I was going to assert is the notion there's still a lot of hullabaloo around the election. And there's some factions on the liberal side or the far left leaning side that might feel that it's time to activate, let's say. I could see that happening. And so then what you do, that raises a really interesting proposition, right? So you have US citizens, private citizens, assembling into, let's say, a coalition, or you can call it a cyber militia if you want, and committing an act as if they are the state, but they're not authorized to do that by the state. But you can't decouple them from the state either because they're citizens. So what does the state do? What does the federal government do? Disavow those individuals?
Probably not. Not if they're private citizens, they wouldn't.
Right. I mean, that's a tricky situation.
Yeah. I dig it. I dig the prediction. All right. Sony gets hacked again in 2019.
What, to steal back the rights for X-Men? Will it be Disney?
No, it's been 3 years. So it's like every 3 years. So
yeah, I just read that article this week about that whole thing, about how they were leaving passwords in Excel unprotected for servers, IP addresses, salaries, emails. I really didn't know the extent of how bad that was. And they were using fax machines and old Blackberries that were in and running paper between desks. Man.
Well, what do you expect when the Japanese minister of cybersecurity came out, last month and said, I've never used a computer?
Wait, he's not Japanese.
Hey, when I read that article too, they mentioned that they had hired some cybersecurity firm, and they were invited by Sony to go meet them at their cybersecurity offices. And when they showed up, they walked right in the front door. There was no administrative assistant to meet them. No, they just walked right into Sony's office. And they said, we instantly started realizing what a rough situation this was going to be. They just knew. Like, there was no locks on the doors for the data center, nothing. So, man, that was easy money right there. Whew.
Yep. But no, the whole key here to this, Ken, is that I don't believe anyone else is going to predict that. You have very specific in your predictions. And Nostradamus is very specific in his prediction.
Nostradamus. Dude, when did you come up with that? That's fucking clever.
I've been saying it for a little while.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Man. Here's a prediction for you. I got about 10% of my battery left, and then this show ends.
You gotta plug it in. Yeah. All right.
It ain't happening. So if you got something else, make it fucking quick.
All right. So not only am I predicting that Sony's going to get breached again, I believe as well a major car manufacturer will have a true demonstration of being breached remotely without having to physically compromise the car first.
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a good one, man.
I predict it's going to be Chevy.
I'm hoping
tell you,
Tesla.
Well, that goes back to your earlier point, man. Isn't it kind of ironic? And it's not ironic. It's actually just human nature, but it is ironic in some ways that at least it seems to me that a lot of the cyber community likes to drive Tesla or be driven in a Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I'll tell you though, man, not just the car themselves, the manufacturing. Last week, 2 weeks ago, Marcia has a cousin. I went with her husband who works for Daimler AG. And I toured one of the smaller factories. Dude.
It's amazing,
it was amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Amazing. We're going to go to some other ones that have even more advanced stuff. But man, we had long conversations because he works in tech there. It's really interesting to see how technologically advanced they are in their implementation. And I'm not talking about him and his department, just generally speaking about industry. But as an industry, like Dan, you were saying about the CIO and evolution, like the evolution of the philosophy around it isn't like 21st century.
Right.
The equipment absolutely is, man. The optimization and the efficiency is absolute 21st century. But the philosophy of why it is that way seems to be, like maybe 19th century.
Yeah. And then I'm also, because this is my last, but it's not really a technology prediction in this case. The wall will not get built.
Agreed.
Yeah.
A physical wall will not get made.
Put a wall around the White House. That'll fix it.
No, but I do believe they will start using more and more drones and the capability of basically MZ catchers in that area, and also to block to that way they know when someone's crossing the border electronically in those areas. And then that's when they will dispatch drones, track, apprehend, and deport. But they will not. There will not be a physical wall.
Here's my last prediction. 2019 will be the year that we see, and I thought about this before, and it's different than yours, Dan, but it's related, that we're going to see a specific targeted ransomware attack against players of a game, not the game company itself. And I'll tell you why. I don't know if you guys are aware of this phenomenon called Fortnite. Okay. Epic. And so Fortnite isn't even a year old yet. I saw this week Epic reported revenue in excess of $2 billion.
I saw that.
Off of a free game. And so the microtransaction model for cosmetics is never going away now. Everybody's shifting to it, even Blizzard. Okay. And what are you going to do? Okay, you're going to hack Sony and compromise the network and so forth and so on. I don't think that's where the real value is anymore. The real value is in affecting the millions upon millions of people that play and holding their cosmetic microtransaction rewards hostage in mass, in volume.
Well, think what they'll do. If Fortnite doesn't do the microtransaction, people are going to leave for another game.
Well,
instantly kill that product.
If you're a 15-year-old and you're willing to put your $100 gift certificate in that you for Christmas to buy cosmetic rewards in a game, are you not going to spend, let's say, even $10 to get those cosmetic back?
Yeah.
Sure you will. Sure you will. And your parents will do it because they're tired of hearing you cry.
True. Very true. So
that's my last one.
I got one more thing for you. Have you thought about doing like a different TLD, like .io, which is the fastest growing domain?
I saw that the other day. I went onto Wikipedia to look at all the TLDs. God, I showed my students that a few years ago, but I've forgotten how big that list is. I never thought about the IO. I just think .com's so, there. But I could get Kenmare. I mean, I think Kenmare.io is open, but it's a good idea.
You could call it Mario and create a little image of yourself with a mustache and a hat. Mayo, right? Like Mario?
Or Danny-O, because I've always wanted to be like Dan Ford.
I gotta see if the Twitter handle knows is available real quick.
Yeah, this is one of the best things of not having a lot of viewers. We can say stuff and nobody's gonna steal it.
No, they're gonna steal it later.
Any last ones, Ken?
I also actually think, just because it's going to be funny if it does happen again, that Facebook will get hacked again in 2019.
Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, but let's differentiate. Are they actually going to get breached again, or are we going to find out that they got breached again, but they got breached in the past?
Ooh,
I think we'll find out they got breached.
And the breach happens in 2019?
No, that breach happened this year too. Like an old one.
Yeah.
No, I think it's going to be new.
You think there'll be a new hack?
Yep.
I'll split the difference and I'll say both.
I hope that company dies. Ugh. I hate them. I despise Zuckerberg, everything he stands for, and Sheryl Sandberg. They both go to hell. I can't stand either one of them.
All right, man. So
hey,
at some
tell
point,
her to lean into that. All right.
Yeah.
Some point soon in
the
near.
I actually know the author for Lead Out.
At some point in the near future, man, we should have a serious debate about privacy.
We need to. I know you and I differ. We differ on this
episode.
No, we'll have like a whole episode and write it down beforehand.
All right.
Yeah.
One more prediction. I think Tesla gets bought out. Tesla gets bought out this year by a major car company.
All right. No, I want you to specify in this case a little bit more specific. American, European, or Asia?
I'm actually going to go Asia. Go risky on this one, like a Kia or a Hyundai, because I think the Germans have slowly caught up, but are catching up. Americans are behind.
Hyundai and Kia are the same company.
Are they really?
Yes.
Well, you're right in differentiating insofar as they're both Korean.
Right.
That is true.
They're the same Korean.
So I say, well, a Hyundai Kia then will be the one.
I think that's actually pretty spot on because their Genesis product line is it's winning.
It's relaunching, isn't it?
A ton of awards and like Car and Driver, and I saw one the other day.
Yep.
I think the G70 or something like that, and I had to look it up. It
looks like a high-end BMW car, like the 7.6 series. I mean, it's really nice.
Yeah, I was very impressed, but I like that prediction. That's a good one. I dig it.
Yeah.
How dare you insult German manufacturing?
No, I don't think it's an insult. Because
I don't think anybody
thought with BMW
doesn't need it.
They don't need it.
Listen, man, kiss French, drive German. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Well, we got our predictions done. We made fun of Eric Cole again. And
we got some good goals set out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put mine on Twitter so I can go back to this time next year.
Yep.
Hell yeah, man. Get your brand settled, create your site and put them on there too, man.
I gotta wait for Dan to get on Twitter so you can send me the University of Michigan.
It'll be
how to build your brand.
It'll be tomorrow.
Okay.
Starting off 2000.
Oh, launch tomorrow. Nice. Good day to launch.
That's right.
Don't drink too much tonight, Dan.
Happy New Year. Everyone be safe. And I wish everyone, especially you two gentlemen, that 2019 be your most productive and rewarding year yet.
You too, man. I'm looking forward to. Should we shoot for like 50 episodes?
Yeah.
That's one a week with 2 weeks off.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
All right, folks.
All right, everybody. Episode 100 done. Happy New Year. Take care.
Peace.
Happy New Year.
Later, everybody.
See you guys.
Bye.